Scunthorpe United had lost 4-0 at home to Exeter City this afternoon.
Love it.
thought United had lost 4-0 at home to Exeter City this afternoon.
Love it.
Open wide for some soccer!
Good evening, everybody. Can everybody hear me all right? Because my mic was played up a second ago. All thumbs up if you can get me. Good. Slightly worried about Tom's name, slightly worried about Bruce's dress sense. We'll get onto that in a moment. Those of you who are here, obviously, off the back of a pretty crazy Grand Prix. Most of my anger venom is directed towards Max Verstappen right now. So town players might be safe. I am joined in the top right by Ian, who is wearing his 2014 shirt.
4 years ago, I think. 2016, 2017, maybe.
Yeah, fair enough. I got it completely wrong.
League shirt.
I got given it in the season we went to Coventry and lost 4-0. So
No, the heady days.
the heady heights.
I was there.
Was that me? Have I gone?
Have you gone where?
No, you're still here.
Good. Well, I'm sure everybody wants that. We're joined by Tom, who's down on the south coast enjoying his tea.
Hello.
You no longer look like you're in a bed sit for people on parole, which is quite nice.
No, I'm not in a bed sit. I'm in a house.
And Bruce has arrived. I assume he's the Joker, so he's like what post-match entertainment at town nowadays.
Jester. Could be replacing the on-field soon.
Well, I'll tell you something. The way we're going, Jesters at Chester's may be making a return, but more on that in a bit. Gentlemen,
More like Jesters at Jessup.
Yeah, that's true. Are they even lower? Look, we want your opinions. Everything was flying around on Twitter. It was flying around on our WhatsApp group as well. So get your thoughts in on the last few games. Get your thoughts in on Dagenham if you went yesterday. Tom is quite clearly making his feelings known, which is a shame, but because I always thought it was a bit of a positive chap. But there we go. Look, we can't talk about Max Verstappen trying to attempt murder on poor dear Lewis Hamilton by brake trekking him for too much. We need to talk about yesterday. I was one of the lucky 600 souls that went to another random part of London to watch us lose. Gentlemen, I don't know if you listened, if you've been able to sort of digest it or seen any of the highlights or lowlights. What were your thoughts? And then I will come in and be cheery, because I'll tell you something, if we were doing this before I put my Christmas tree up, I would not be happy. Who would like to go first?
Oh, but everybody was really, really anxious to get going.
He's going, right, okay. And then obviously, as we're talking about it, put your thoughts in. I'm going to go through Twitter and find some of them as well, and then we can go from there. Ian, what did you make of that and the other games? We missed the game because Solihull Moors was cancelled, was it? Is that right? Oh, no, we lost to Solihull Moors, didn't we? Which was the game that got called? Boreham Wood. We didn't talk about Solihull Moors. So what are your thoughts at the moment, and if you had anything to digest from yesterday?
Seems to be, we're saying that there's a couple of games in there that we've missed some bits, but much of a muchness, really. Not creating chances, seemingly giving up a few clear-cut ones at the other end, which was something that we weren't really doing at the start of the season for both parts of that, which is a real concern, because you'd like to think, at least with the Hurst team, you're going to keep it pretty solid and maybe pinch one even if you are on bad form. But just at the moment, that just doesn't seem to be happening at either end. I think you put some figures in earlier about kind of the shots that you'd seen at the games you'd been to in your random parts of London, and it's just not enough. And considering the way we started the season, that's really surprising that everybody seems to have dropped off a cliff at once. And I mean at once, it's not even that we've got a couple of players off form, but everyone else is doing all right. It seems that all of a sudden everybody seems to have stopped doing what they were doing well at the start of the season.
we're doing a quiz in my five-a-side team, and I'm rock bottom. It's all Premier League questions. I've got 10 out of 20 so far. I am smashing it. Yeah, I mean, I'm slightly worried if we did fall off a cliff at the moment, everyone would miss because it seems that there is no joy anywhere. Bruce, you get to more games than most of us as well. There seems to be two different teams: the one that plays at home and the one that entertains me away. How have your thoughts been going? You wanted to talk about Wealdstone, so it'd be interesting to get your thoughts on a game that happened about 2 months ago.
We didn't speak about Wealdstone, and Wealdstone. I know in our group, and Tom will say he's bit in a minute, but I was of the same attitude as you that Aldershot wasn't great, and we just look. It's almost as if, you know, and there's plenty of speculation flying around, but it's just as if the wheels have just come off, just like Ian says, it's just instantly. You know, we've not had a period where we gradually got worse or anything like that. And I mean, even the home games, the Southend game wasn't brilliant, and I hoped that would see us turn the corner in confidence, and we've just lost all intensity. And the reason I wanted to talk about Wealdstone was just to compare to what you saw yesterday, with another 2 weeks of training in them, or nearly 10 days of training in them a bit after that. Solihull, sorry. That there was just, Hursley said on the radio, I listened to it on the way home from Solihull, and he just thought we were coming back into the game as they scored their counter-attack second goal. But that was something like an hour in, and we created nothing. We just suddenly, the high intensity, and you know, we've talked about missing McAtee, but the high intensity that we had at the start of the season, we were pressing teams, we were dominating teams, and everything just seems so pedestrian now, and we just seem to get the ball at one side of the pitch, and the other team quite happily let us pass it across the pitch, and it gets to the other side of the pitch, and then the guy, either the fullback or the right wide forward, are down a blind alley almost with 2 or 3 men on one, and then occasionally the odd midfielder showing, and we're just creating so little. And like Ian again said, you suddenly notice when you're not scoring at one end, and I mean, we are letting in goals at, you know, it seems like 2 a game at the minute, but we just, when you're not scoring, you just notice that even more, don't you? It's just really concerning, and what's happened, and we're trying all sorts, and it's just doesn't seem to be, you know, the personnel are moving all over the place at the minute. I think the manager is struggling to find what's wrong, or knows what's wrong but can't fix it at the minute. Sorry, that was a bit long-winded.
No, that's absolutely fine. It's worth talking about, and it seems that Hurst is scrambling around for ideas. When you don't have a good semblance of what your first 11 may be, is usually a good indication of whether or not either things are going excellent and you need to try everybody, or not many teams live in that world, or it's like it is at the moment. It's like we just genuinely don't know. And you almost get to that point now where players who aren't playing are brilliant because they're not playing, and they get better just by being on the bench, or in the case of Joel Grant and Sean Scannell, probably, you know, in the X-ray waiting room or wherever they may be. Tom, you are sorry. No, go ahead. I
was just going to say, just to finish, I think just on your point. Sorry, Tom. On your point, I looked though at the team that seemed to be doing really well earlier in the season was probably McEwen in goal, Sears at right back, and then after the first couple of games, it was Towler and Waterfall, Crooks at left back, and then the midfield was generally Hunt, Clifton, and one other, and either Fox or Coke, wasn't it? Coke tended to be on the bench in the middle of when we were playing really well, like the Altrincham, where we were flying at 3-0 till the ended off, and then you had McAtee, Taylor, and probably Sousa. And barring Crooks and Sears, who's out the team for other reasons at the moment, those players were all available yesterday. You know, that if we're going back to basics and back to your first sort of team, those players were pretty much all available. So, you know, something's not right that we can't get a game out of them players anymore.
Tom, you are always my beacon of positivity. In your wonderful world, we're still in League Two. We're still fighting the good fight. I'm slightly worried about your name. What's going on? Please give me a bit of a positivity before I go into sort of my review of yesterday. Oh, hang on, his mic's broke. That don't say much.
There we are. Obviously,
I was going to say I wasn't doing a comical Ali and suppressing your voice.
obviously with my name, I'm taking the piss. Having
not.
had a quick look at the hashtag GTFC on the Twattersphere last night. And,
I'm gonna share WhatsApp groups, people. Tom is totally negative now in private. He puts on a persona, and he's just left that by mistake.
Believe me, there are lots of twats out there. I don't know. I kind of I've got bored of being depressed about town. To be honest with you, I am 35, so I'm sure anyone who is my age can relate to my journey, for want of a better word, of being a Grimsby Town fan, and that is basically getting relegated to what was or what is now League One, coming back via Wembley 98, having one good season at that level, and then the rest of the time, more often than not, losing than winning, or certainly not winning more games than we lose.
Oh, hang on. We might be in a fight here. I mean, by all means, be positive, but do not besmirch my Alan Poutons and the like. They were wonderful at times. Wonderful. How dare you? They were above their weight.
They were wonderful at times, but the ultimate reality is when, like, people. So at the moment, people are talking about hard statistics. We've lost 5 out of the last 6. The reality of our time in the championship was that we lost more games than we won. And at the moment, okay, our form has dropped off an absolute cliff, and there's clearly something behind the scenes that's going wrong, which has contributed to this lack of form. But we're still 6. We're still solid at home. We've only lost 1 at home. Our away form's clearly an issue. We're only 4 points off top of the league. People need to get a bit of perspective. This time last year, we were a basket case club. We were going absolutely nowhere. There were people even talking about us going down and not even having a chance of getting promoted out of the conference. And now we're in a situation where we've got a great chance of winning the league. We've got a great chance even of being in the playoffs and being in a strong position in the playoffs. And because we've had a bit of a bad run, everyone's throwing the dummies out the pram and saying that we're not going to do it. Yes, we are in a bit of a pickle, but I don't think it's reason to start calling for the manager's head and all this lot. There's clearly something else going on for me, and I think people need to remember where we've actually come from in the last 12 months, which is from a lot further than where we are now as a team challenging for promotion back into the league.
But
I'm a bit like you, Tom. I'm not panicking. This is bad, but it's not a challenge to you. But how many more of these results would it become a problem for you? When would it be? Like I say, it's not a challenge to you, but when would it become a problem? How many more defeats in a sequence?
It is a problem now, but I think, as I said in our WhatsApp group, I'm kind of beyond the stage where I just completely lose my shit about Grimsby losing. It's boring. It's absolutely boring. Like, I think the whole.
We're not going to have a podcast.
Hang on, let me finish. Well, I mean, that is actually a really good point. Like, us being able to do this podcast is kind of a case in point that these days people are just people aren't general sports fans anymore. Like, at the moment, I've got the snooker on in the background, and people aren't general sports fans. Like, how many people who are listening to this podcast could name the current 100-meter world athletics champion? I'd dare to say like less than 5%. How many people follow the Formula One anymore? How many people, things like grandstand and that we actually have lost from our culture were great things, because it gave everybody a general sort of knowledge of sport, but it also gave people perspective as to how bad things actually are. And you could switch off from football in the summer and tune into county cricket, the Ashes, the athletics, whatever it is, the cycling. Now it's you're just 100 miles an hour. I only like football. I only follow, 2 or 3 sports tops, and it's quite. I find it quite dull, to be perfectly honest. I think we need to just sort of everybody needs to chill out and remember that football is a winter sport. And yes, it's annoying when we do shite, but equally there's more to life than just absolutely losing your rag about Town losing a few games. And I'm sure we'll turn it around.
I mean, I'm sure we've got lots of things to say. I'd like to, firstly, I'm going to ask about perspective. You mentioned it there. When you're talking about perspective, you mentioned the championship teams in 2000, 2001. Surely there's a bit of perspective in that, saying, given our financial constraints, given where we were punching well above our weight, irregardless of whether we won more or lost less. What the same would go as now. We played Dagenham and Redbridge yesterday, whose attendances are 1,700 when we were there yesterday, 600 of which were our own. We're playing teams which we vastly outnumber in terms of financial clout, facilities and infrastructure, as well as setup. And in the case of some teams, in terms of full-time and part-time professionalism. Is that not a bit of perspective there as well? Because you're treating them both. I thought you were treating them both the same.
I disagree there. I think in 2001, 2002, the championship as it is now was a completely different division. The championship now, if you want to even get anywhere near where we were,
no, but I'm talking about the achievements of that team. Then you were deriding, saying,
yeah, no, I'm not. I wasn't deriding him. What I was saying was that the reality was that we lost more games than we won, and whilst that was an achievement for us because we were a small team, our achievements then are tempered by the fact that the championship then was a much different division. There was only maybe a handful of clubs, absolute maximum, who could envisage getting promoted out of the championship to the Premier League then, whereas now there's probably half of the division who are investing millions and millions of pounds who could realistically envisage getting into the Premier League. And equally in the National League or the conference as it was then, there was probably only 1 or 2 clubs that could envisage getting promoted out of the conference and even got 4-figure gates. Now there's probably an equal amount of teams that get 4-figure gates. And also we're talking about a handful of clubs who have the same infrastructure as us: Stockport County, Wrexham, Chesterfield. Help me out here. Football is an entirely different prospect.
I didn't think that was the point you were making. Maybe that's my mistake, but it felt very much like you were saying, look, Town fans who are of our ilk, because we're the same age, remember those days in the championship when we were doing that. We weren't as good. We weren't winning as many games. Down here we are, but I would say that those two challenges are entirely different. But yeah, Ian, what were you going to say?
Well, first off, I'm just going to jump back into 2001, 2002. The top
bloody good, because I love that season.
The top 10 in the league that year: Man City, West Brom, Wolves, Millwall, Birmingham, Norwich, Burnley, Preston, Wimbledon, Crystal Palace. You've even in there got Coventry, Sheffield, Watford, Bradford, Notts Forest, Portsmouth, Sheffield Wednesday, Barnsley, all of whom have had spells challenging for the top end of that table at that time. What we were doing at that point in time was amazing. And we were challenging and punching. But then we're talking about perspective, and I'm not a massive Hurst out or anything like that. I'm really not. But if we're going to talk about perspective, what's happened over the last 6 to 8 months behind the scenes at Town is absolutely mega. But at the end of the day, it's what happens on the pitch that the fans will always care about. That's the measure of a football club. And you can see that up and down the land. every single football club, it doesn't matter what their fans are doing, what their board is doing behind the scenes. It's on the pitch that matters. And we've obviously had Jason and Andrew and Debbie on the pod at different times, and they're not daft enough to think anything different. So in terms of perspective, from a town fan's point of view, we've been relegated as one of the worst teams that we've probably seen. And I include the teams that nearly went down before, under Woods and Newell and various other managers and setups. We've come down into non-league football again. We've started like shit off a shovel, and then we've now failed to 6 defeats in the last 7 games. That's the perspective for most fans of our last 6 to 8 months. And while I do think some of the comments go too far, you're always going to get that. And I don't think it's a lack of understanding of other sports or anything like that. I think that's the way the world is, generally speaking, nowadays. You're always going to get the comments which are on one extreme or the other. But the fact of it is, that is the reality for town fans. If we had a look at 2021 and saw how many games we'd actually won, I think we'd understand why people are losing it a bit. And let's not forget that, unfortunately for Paul Hurst, the fact that he's been here before does taint some people's memory. There were people who didn't like him in his first spell for various reasons, some justified, some not. There are still jokes that float around now from Hurst's first spell about bring Parslow on. You know, we've all made him at different points when we've been a goal up or 2-1 up.
I'd have loved to have brought him on yesterday.
But we've got to remember as well that little bit of history from a few years ago will tarnish things as well at the same time. So I don't think that it's people lacking perspective. I think that we've got to bear in mind that there's been a whole year of, barring the takeover, which is mega for the club and will be absolutely huge in the future, but people remember what happens on the pitch more than they remember what's going on behind the scenes, and that is an unfortunate thing of what I would say of every sport, and every walk of life, really. And I would suspect if we put them together, we've lost 2/3 of our games over the last year, and you can forgive town fans for being passionate and losing their rag a little bit occasionally, within reason. Some of the stuff that I've heard happened yesterday, out of order, but that's a different story. But you can understand the frustration and pessimism amongst some at the moment.
Do we want
the thing is as well, Ian? Sorry, Alex, go on. You go.
No, it's all right. No, because I was going to move us on. We haven't even talked about yesterday, and I've got one up on all 3 of you because I actually went, unlike you part-timers. So, you know.
Well, I think that's just what my point was going to be. I know Tom says that he takes it, you know, not with a pinch of salt, but he doesn't get stressed about it now. We've had big followings. That was probably the lowest away following of the season so far at nearly 600.
Yeah, it was
there's a lot of people that spend a lot of money travelling up and down the country, watching the team. And after Solihull, I said that's me done till after Christmas with away games. I bailed out because I'd been to Wealdstone. I've been to other ones before that, but I've been to Wealdstone. I've been to Solihull, and I just thought I'm going to have a month off. I'm not going to go away. That's what I'm doing. But yesterday, when I listened to the game, a whole game on the radio, when it finished, I turned it off and I walked into the other room, and me and Maisie did something else. I didn't have to set off on a 3-hour journey back home again, having spent 150 quid on the day, and so the day was completely different for me. If I'd have been sat in the car for 3.5 hours coming home, I might have felt differently and more angry about the result than I would have done if I was at the game and I'd gone and spent that money. Does that make sense?
I felt annoyed, and I was only on the Jubilee line.
But there's people are spending a lot of money, and it is frustrating when they're not performing. And I'm not in the Hurst out camp. I think he needs more time. Something's gone off, but I can understand, like Ian, I can understand frustration. I wouldn't vent it in the way that some do, but you can't control everybody just the same as you can't control anyone in the pub or the people that you know in the supermarket. Everyone's going to be different.
And I think the problem we have on this podcast is we're all actually coming from a relatively similar point of view. Tom's just won Summit. And, you know, I think we've got a relatively similar conversation. We will move on to the match in a second. Tom, final point. So before we can finally talk about some football.
I'm sorry, Bruce. I don't buy the argument that because you go every week or because you travel to loads of away games that you somehow have more passion or more feeling than the next average fan. I've lived in the Skegness area since I was nearly 8 and spent most of my town following career travelling from outside of Grimsby going to watch home games, let alone away games. It's an hour in the car on a match day to go and watch Town at home. Does that make me more passionate than you because I travel an hour to watch home game and you just
I'm
walk
not
down the
criticising
road?
you. I'm not-
No, I'm
That,
not
that wasn't what Bruce said,
criticising.
though. That wasn't
You were
what Bruce said.
basically saying people who travel every week and spend money on it are more disappointed than people who don't go.
No, that wasn't what he said. He didn't say that He didn't say that because you travel, you're more passionate. He said that perhaps it makes the strength of feeling more because you come away going, "I've just spent X amount on that." It wasn't saying that because you travel, you're more passionate. He's saying that perhaps there's another layer
It's
that gets
basically
thrown
the
on top
same
of
thing, isn't
it.
it? It's basically the same
No,
thing.
it's not. It's a completely different
Well,
thing.
of course it is. I totally think it is. So
He's saying
it's if you spend more money, you're traveling further.
he's not saying that you're more passionate for the club because you spend more money. What he's saying is perhaps there's another thing that gets taken into the equation that causes your frustration when you come away from that game.
I can kind of
think-
understand that because you can, if you're listening to it on the radio or if you watch it on iFollow, like we all had to do last season, you can just slam the laptop down and walk off and go do what Bruce did, go sit with Maisie. If you're someone that was there yesterday or went to Wealdstone or whatever, you've then got to almost mull on that defeat and that performance for the next 4.5, 5 hours while you're traveling home, and it sort of knocks into the next day because you get home at 3 o'clock in the morning, you got work at 8 or whatever it may be. I can understand that.
But I think that's the same for people who just because you live away or you don't go to games. I don't think that's necessarily any different. Everybody has different circumstances where they can't go to the games. And for people who live away, for example, you relate to this, Alex. You know, supporting Town is actually a really big thing because it is your link to your family heritage or it's your representation of where you're from, and you've been living away from home so long. So actually,
I've built a personality around it.
Supporting Town is really big, and so when they lose, it does affect you, even though you haven't travelled to the game, and you do get down about it. You know, I'm sorry, I don't buy into that. Just because you've spent money on it, it means more. I think that's like those people who jump over the barriers and celebrate a goal after we've scored, and they say they can't stop themselves celebrating because they've got more passion than other people. It's utter fucking twaddle.
But again, you're misunderstanding what
You're
Bruce
not
said.
even
He
the
hasn't
point.
said you've got more passion because you spend money. He's saying
Well,
that.
I think that's the message that it conveys.
But I'm trying to explain it, Tom, and you
No,
don't
I understand what you're saying. I'm saying the message that it conveys is that for me.
Tom,
Okay, well, hopefully I've clarified the message for anybody listening. Sorry, Bruce.
sorry, can I ask you one question, Tom?
Yeah.
How long was your match day experience yesterday?
It was a game. It was good. We played.
My match day experience was getting up, seeing what the teams were. I don't think it makes a difference how long my match day experience was.
Okay. All right. We're not going to win.
That's where
Alex, move. Alex, you better move on.
that's exactly where the snobbery comes in that I'm talking about. And paying more money to go and see something correlates to how far you've travelled. I've flown in from France and Spain to watch games. I didn't come away when we lost and say, "Oh, I fucking flown from France to this and we lost." That's not the point. I'm there to watch the game. It doesn't matter how much I've spent. I've made that choice either way. Just
I'm
somebody else has made the choice.
I'm going to stop that because we're labouring points now, and I think we've talked about it long enough. Look, so I went to Dagenham yesterday. I travelled. I did the work. I didn't pay for my ticket though, so thank you very much to Stuart for passing that on to me because he was stuck in France.
No wonder you don't care that we lost.
Yeah, exactly. Bloody loved it. So we went. Another random part of London that I don't have any intention of going back to, and we came away with nothing and a pretty shit performance. Overall, I don't think many of the players came out with it without much credit. I thought Bell performed particularly well. The young lad came on, scored a perler, and did stuff. But other than that, you could replace it. I know Tom said he thought Aldershot's performance was good. I thought it was shit. I thought Wealdstone was shit. I thought Maidenhead was shit, and I thought I thought Bromley was shit as well. Though the conditions kind of played their part in that game. And I think if you went to any of those games, you pretty much get the same story of what we had at Dagenham yesterday. We didn't control the game. We set up to counter whatever Dagenham were doing. It's a Dagenham side that have lost 9 of their players and had 12 first-team players only to pick from. The rest of them were youth team players. And we we spent the entire game keeping our shape and not really doing anything else. And given the performances we've had of late, I'd have expected a lot more, and we really didn't come out of it with anything close to it. Their first goal, I haven't seen it back, but it looked a lucky as hell header. Towler wasn't very comfortable at left back. He overstretched for a ball and tapped out for a throw, and found himself out of position after that, which meant that the lad had quite a bit of space to head the ball into the back of the net. I don't think Clifton came back and supported him at all on that left-hand side, and it was where Dagenham were always down there, always down, trying to get their point through. Second goal, it was a bit of decent strike, but we couldn't clear our lines and get it away. It all looked a bit ridiculous at the back. Third one, contentious. Again, haven't seen it. Happy if you guys have seen it. People were saying it was miles offside. It probably was. Paul Hurst went so far as almost to indicate that the ref was a fatty and couldn't keep up with play, which was quite funny. But Waterfall didn't win his header. I thought he was really poor yesterday. I know some people have come back and commented on that, but I've got to disagree with what they said. I thought he was really poor. I thought maybe he was too busy trying to deal with different changes at the back again. But there was four incidents yesterday, which I came to. Firstly, he didn't win that header. It came off of him, which is why I can think you can debate if it was onside or not, because it came off him last. There was a moment as well when he had probably our best chance of the game. He beat his man at the from a corner, and was about 5 yards out and didn't even get the ball on target from the header. There was another incident when him and Crocombe, he had two choices. He could pass the ball calmly back to Crocombe to set up whatever he wants to, or he could boot it out of play. I think you can all guess which one he chose. And he got turned quite a few times, and I was quite disappointed in his performance, given how well he's played recently. I thought the midfield was pretty empty. I thought Hunt is so he's a different player from what he was at the start of the season. I think his delivery is pretty poor. I think when he comes up against anyone physical, he's easily outbeaten. And I think both him and Fox are just relatively comfortable on the ball when they've got a few yards of space around them. I don't know what they do. I don't know what they're there for. I don't know what their USP is. Neither of them are an engine. Neither of them are going to be physical in the middle of the park. They're comfortable on the ball, and we're talking and we're shouting for creativity, and neither of them are offering it. So I'm not really sure what they're there for. Taylor didn't have the same game he was as he has done recently. He was pretty much outmarked. McAtee did a lot of running around, a lot of huffing and puffing, and I think if the level of the game had anywhere been high enough, he wouldn't have been sent off. But because that was such a different tackle, a different pace that the game was being played at, he was sent off, and I'd like to see that back again. But Hurst seemed pretty pissed off with it, or pissed off with McAtee. He was certainly shouting at someone in that direction, whether it was the ref or the other guy. The new guy, can't really complain about him, but he was pretty anonymous. Didn't really see much of him at all. Lenny came on. I'm sorry, but I'm fed up with defending Lenny. He's just not that good. He's got a fat ass, and that's what he uses. And yesterday he comes on as our option, and I don't think that's much of an option. Bell came on and did twice as much as him, if I'm being entirely honest. And Crocombe was all right. He made one half decent save. I don't think he's at fault for either of the goals. He wasn't that much better than McEwen when we're talking about defense, like collecting balls in the box. But I don't think the level of energy in the team is anywhere near as good. He had one option when he got the ball and tried to. Bruce, I'm doing brilliantly. You've got to I'll breathe in a minute. I promise. He went to throw the ball out for a quick counter, and every fucker was jogging. They were just jogging back to position. I never saw anyone run at full tilt yesterday. I never saw anyone have a shot in anger, really. apart from the ones that went in. So I guess that's 2 at least. But I'll be honest, I don't see where anything's coming from. I think they're all a bunch of wank at the moment. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what it's about, but there's no cohesion. Defensively, we're terrifying. Up front, we offer nothing. And I think Chesterfield are going to rip us to fucking pieces. Bruce.
That was brilliant, mate. That was very good. No, you answered my question, actually. I put my hand up too soon. Yeah, I was going to ask what the pace that we did things at was like, but you mentioned the word jogging, and I'm assuming that we were quite pedestrian in moving the ball around the pitch, were we?
It's just the same as what it was at Wealdstone, just back and forth, or along the halfway line. They can set up and set their 2 banks of 4, and we don't offer anything. And shall I tell you the other thing that Waterfall did, because I said 4 things and I didn't give 4. He kept hoofing it everywhere, fucking aimlessly, like watching Russell Slade'd come back, just hoofing it up to no one in particular. And the goal we scored that was of actual sort of team play was the only time we went down the wing. We tried it down the wing with the overlap in and had an opportunity, and that was it. And we never returned to it. I don't know what's going on.
I've seen people say we need leaders. I've seen people say we need leaders.
I think that.
All right. We changed McEwen yesterday, but in recent games we've had Macca, who's played hundreds of games for the club. You know, you've got Waterfall in defence, you've got a spine, you've got Fox and Coke in midfield, and you've got Ryan Taylor up front that have all played hundreds and hundreds of games. I'm not buying that either. I'm not having we're missing leaders, or when he's talking about the team not having needs stronger characters. I think we've got a decent blend of experienced and youngsters, and
I think we've got nice guys. And I think that when Hurst talks about, I totally understand getting the right people in. And if you want to look at the highest level, Liverpool did that with Van Dijk. It's the only one I can fucking think of, because football's crazy otherwise. They waited for that bloke. They wanted him. He was the right choice, and they went and got him, and it's been perfect ever since. I understand that. I totally get. But if these are the right characters, I don't know what characters we're looking for, because they seem so mentally weak. And if they go with outside the DM postcode, they all freak out. They are incapable of playing a game of football. You guys, because I've gone to Maidenhead, Woking, Aldershot, Bromley, Dagenham. I've seen Bromsgrove. I watched Southend, and I'm sure there was another one down here where we lost as well. They're totally different games from the ones you guys see at home. They're a different team. They seem so weak mentally. That goal yesterday, when I commented on it, at the end of half-time, fucking brilliant, especially where that tunnel is, because it's right in the away fans, and they were turning. I saw some people like tweeting me rolling eyes. I was there. I saw people what was happening, like groaning, moaning, complaining. You get that goal, everyone was pumped again. And I'll tell you something, we've talked about it, Bruce, and you're absolutely right. The atmosphere at away games has been shit. Yesterday, couldn't fault them. They were brilliant, apart from, fighting each other and then turning into Hurst out. Before that, singing, shouting, following, being proud, being loud, and doing their main thing. And even when those Hurst out chants, which were in the minority, they were booed down, and Paul Hurst, Black and White Army, was well above it, and they were chanting and singing aloud. They didn't get anything back. They came back out, and do you know what? They played all right for the first 5 minutes in the first half, and then they just fell to pieces, and they never looked back. 10 minutes to go, 10 men down. You've got fucking nothing to lose. They didn't play like that at all. I never saw a team. They didn't do the whole, well, let's fuck it. Let's just go for it, because that's all you can do. And they didn't do anything. They just said, well, time will be up in a minute, won't it? We can all get back on the bus. It's quite nice now. We've got Sky Sports linked on it and probably heated seats. Who's driving? I hope it's not Sears. That sort of stuff. I don't know. I don't know what's gone on. I don't really know what's gone on. I think pass over to everybody else. I'll breathe. And that was after I put up a Christmas tree. So, Tom doesn't look happy with me. That's fair enough. But I think Hurst should be given time. Hurst deserves the time. He works hard. He's like an ex-girlfriend that's come back. So there's baggage. I get that. But who are you going to go to? There's no one more hardworking in football. But he's got questions to answer. And he's got to find solutions, because these are the players he's picked. And you will get bad players. He will buy a striker. He'll buy a fucking Brody every now and then. But these players, I don't know what's going on. I know we're all quite in tune with the Townverse, and rumours are flying left, right and centre at the moment, which we won't talk about on the podcast. It's not fair. But there are rumours going around left, right, and centre. This is wrong. This is wrong. People are whinging. People are whining. This is happening. Sears is, drinking 3 times over the limit and fucking down Kingsway at 4 a.m. in the morning. Who the fuck's he going to pick up at 4 a.m. in the morning? Bags ball shut like 15 years ago. I don't understand it. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it.
I'm
Please,
still
someone
sad.
tell me.
Still miss the bags.
I don't get it. I mean, that's the closest I'll get to that twat off Arsenal TV, I think.
Which one?
Yeah, that's true.
Are you all right, Alex? Do you need us to send help?
No, I'm fine. I didn't even pay for my ticket. Christ.
Do you
And,
want
and finally, you fuckers, it's not the fucking flag, is it? It's not the flag. Oh, it's the flag. It's the flag. It's not the fucking flag, is it? Maybe if
No,
we'd
it's
had
you.
the flag out, they'd have had a fucking idea of what's going on. You know,
It's you.
if we'd have had it 10 by 5 out there, proper fucking hanging material that stand was. It's like Leighton Orient. They had like the little bit there where you can stand up that doesn't go all the way to the bottom. That stand would have been sat loud and proud. You'd been able to fucking see it. But no, I had to leave it at home because you lot think it's a curse. Well, it's not. And it's not me either, even though I've only seen one winning since 2018. Shut up.
Is it big enough to cover a goal mouth?
I'll tell you something, it probably would have covered more fucking area than Lenny did yesterday. Christ alive. The guy's just a fucking telegraph pole they stick in the middle. I don't know. I don't know what the options are. Hurst is going to work at it. They all looked, do you know what? And they didn't look that pissed off when they were coming off. Crocombe was apologising to fans, and the people who were shouting Hurst out. Who do you want? Who do you want? What's the answer? Because every one that we've gone for, I think we're quite smart on this podcast. I suggested Holloway. I suggested Jolly. We didn't go fucking anywhere, did we? I mean, granted, Ian didn't suggest Holloway. Bruce.
Yes, mate.
What? Oh, sorry. I thought you were going to say.
I was
something.
shaking my head saying I'm not clever.
Yeah, I don't. Who do you want?
But I mean, all right. Where do we? We're not the managers, but what do we do? Do you think that I heard I think John Tonder or somebody saying yesterday, does he pick the same sort of, we keep changing the team, game on game. All right, we are having a few injuries and things like that, and obviously suspension now, but what would we do? Do we try and pick a team that we think's our best team and stick with it for a few games come what may, or do we keep trying to find the right solution? What do you guys think?
Somebody else talk, because people are fed up of listening to me, and I can completely understand it.
I think we've got to go with our strongest team for what we believe to be our strongest team for a couple of games, for me. Because to be fair as well, a lot of the times the people that are being given an opportunity aren't necessarily taking them. Obviously, he's brought in Bell and the other new guy, Maguire, Drew, if I've remembered his name correctly there, and I apologise if I haven't. So hopefully he's looking at different options for wide and up front. And obviously with McAtee now being suspended, I presume it's going to be 3 games for a straight red. That'll give them a bit of a chance in an opening as well. Not quite sure what's happened to Sousa. I know we were all complaining about his end product, but he was still causing problems, and sometimes that's all you need from a player, just to cause the problems and drag some other people away and into create the space elsewhere. So is it just a case of... Say again, sorry?
My mum's listening to the podcast. That's not good.
Oh.
Oh, shit. Hi,
You'll
Mum.
be getting loads of texts later on asking if you're okay.
Yeah, am I eating enough? Yeah, slightly.
But maybe with Seuss, I don't know. Is it a bit of a step up and he just needs a bit of a breather for a little bit? But I think the concern is literally the fact that we've played loads of teams in and around the bottom in this run recently, and we've not come away with anything from most of them. Well, we've obviously, 4 points in the last 7 games we've got. A win and a draw, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, against Southend, who are, rock bottom.
Yeah. But the only other flip
and
side...
that was shit.
The only other flip side of that you could say is the fact that we are, even taking that run into account, still 4 points off top, because it is a competitive league this year and people are taking points off each other. That if we can turn it around pretty sharply, we could soon push back up and be the team that everyone fears, or one of the teams everybody fears again. Naturally, of course, the pessimistic element of that is, fucking hell, if we'd done something in these last 7, we could have been sitting pretty ourselves a couple of points clear at the top end.
who was it that came in? Apologies, mate. I'll find you. Wayne Draper asked what are our expectations this season. When I came to this season, it was mid playoffs. That was my aim. Is playoffs. Is absolutely playoffs.
Oh, you said mid-table there.
Yeah, I know I got it wrong, but I said playoffs at the beginning.
Come on. We were
What?
shite last season. Everybody was expecting playoffs as an absolute best, and we're in the title race. People need to. Oh man, Bruce,
I
what
was
was your
expecting
match day
playoffs from us.
experience yesterday? Please enlighten me.
I was absolutely expecting playoffs from us. I wasn't expecting mid-table.
I said playoffs, but I did say mid-table then, but I meant playoffs because I have said that before. And I think we said that at the start of the season. You're more welcome to go back and listen. Playoffs is where we should be going. I assume that's what Paul's been given. Considering what the top 20 now get in the playoffs or whatever it is in this league, top 8 or whatever it is, playoffs are a minimum expectation, I think, this season. And given the budget we've got and given the teams we've got, it should be, and given the high churn of players across the league, I think last season becomes a pretty tiny facet, doesn't it? That last season we were shit. Well, half of those fuckers have gone, and we've only kept the best ones. And if anything, we were more ruthless this season with the players we've got than we have been in previous years. Danny Rose is off licking lampposts. You've got Scannell, who's just in the hospital and isn't allowed to leave it. You've got who's the other shit ones? They've all fucked off. We don't. It's not the same team, and we're under a team where lots of different things are coming up. They're being treated professionally. Maka was on this very podcast saying, "Look, I come in and my clothes are set out. I've got new equipment. I've got new gym equipment. I've got new statisticians. I've got new people here. We should expect the best. We should have high expectations of the team, especially when we're coming up against teams who've got a fourth or fifth of our budget." I don't understand this thing of going, oh, we were shit last season. That's great. And there's lots of work that needs to be done off the thing. And yeah, the league table currently says we're fourth and this is a tight league. And I'll tell you something, this tight league also means we can fall like a fucking rock and we can be mid-table in the blink of an eye because the other teams around us have always been caught in that. And yeah, we might be in a false position, but at the moment we're one of the worst form teams in this league. And if people, I don't get your idea, Tom, that we shouldn't panic. Like, last season, you were saying we'll stay up. We won't stay up. We didn't stay up. Like, people are allowed to go. This is our expectations.
And when have I said we shouldn't panic? All I've said is that we actually genuinely need a bit of perspective. We came down with Southend, who were a basket case club, pretty much at the same time as what we came into being. For the general public, a basket case club as well. And our two starts to the season have been worlds apart. Yes, playoffs should be our absolute minimum aim given the size of the club. But you have to take into context where we have come from in less than 12 months. Like this time last year, we were losing 3-1 away at Southend, who were at that time bottom of the league. We were awful. And we weren't just awful on the field, we were awful off the field as well. We've come a heck of a long way on and off the field to get to this stage where we're having a podcast and we're arguing, saying, oh, this has been terrible. I completely understand that losing 6 out of the last 7 or whatever it is a disappointment. Of course it is. But having done that, we're still in the playoffs. We're still 4 points off top of the league. Like, yes, we were a championship club. But football in that...
Get back to the championship.
But this is the thing. I'm not the one who always harks back to it. There's lots of people who still haven't got over that fact and still haven't got over the fact that the conference is a completely different league now. And we are in a conference battle with Wrexham, who are funded by Hollywood millionaires, Chesterfield, who spent £250,000 on the current league top scorer, who scored 50% of Chesterfield goals. We're competing against new blood in the conference, such as Bromley, and Boreham Wood, who are teams that are well backed from London, are able to attract players because they're in London. probably at a better price than what we're able to get in terms of quality by virtue of the fact that they're better situated geographically than we are. There's also Notts County, who had the record league attendance in the conference a few weeks ago. The conference is a much bigger and more competitive division than the last time we were here. And
no one's denying those things, though, Tom. But the thing is, like, you keep talking, we need a bit of perspective. Like, I haven't seen anybody mention in their tweets recently anything about, well, we were in the Championship 20 years ago. I've not seen anyone talk about those things.
No, but you haven't seen anyone mention either that 12 months ago we're a basket case club. You haven't seen many people mention that we're in a division.
About that on this very podcast.
Yeah, we have mentioned those things.
I don't think that has been mentioned generally in tweets. Like, I think generally people seem to have forgotten where we were 12 months ago. That would be my.
I think it'd be hard for somebody in 140 characters to say, "Yeah, we were shit last year. We've done amazing to sort out what we've done on the pitch. By the way, Waterfall was crap yesterday." I don't think that's a feasible thing for somebody to put into 140 characters or whatever it is on Twitter. Twitter and things like that and social media is always going to be an instantaneous representation. We said it last season about different things of what people are feeling at the time. But the fact of it is, I haven't seen any of the comments that we had when we came down into the conference last time about, we'll piss this, blah, blah, blah. You know, these are all lower league. They're all pub teams, blah, blah, blah. We should go out and romp them. But the facts of the matter are, and I'm not a Hurst out person, but I can sympathise with the people who are getting really frustrated. We have lost 6 games against teams who are all, or generally speaking, firmly ensconced in the bottom end of the table and are struggling. You just said that 2 of the teams you've just said are well backed. One of them gets 700 on average attendance, and one of them gets 1,500. If we're calling that well backed, we're in shit.
That you're talking about attendances. Wigan Athletic were well backed and got all the way to the Premier League. It's the same difference.
And are back down where now?
Yeah, they're back down where, but they got to the Premier League and won the FA Cup. What have we done? And everybody said Wigan Athletic were a poorly supported team. That's the point I'm making. You can be well backed financially, but not necessarily be the best supported league in the team. Salford City are a great example of that. The whole dynamic of football has completely changed. And
earlier on, you were saying it's only money that gets you successful. Now you're saying that it's not
earlier on. I was saying what's
successful because the dynamics change. So you need to decide which one it is.
Sorry, stop. What was I saying earlier on?
You said that the Championship nowadays is a different story because there's loads of teams pumping millions into it, and it's money that makes you successful and challenging. But now you're saying that you can be well backed in other ways, and
by money. That's
so
what
you need
I'm
to
saying.
decide which one it is.
No, what I'm saying is the teams that you've just said that only get 700 crowds, they're well backed by money. That's what I'm saying. The league has changed. The league has completely changed. Like,
I don't think. I don't think the league has changed. It's just the teams have changed. There's always been well financed teams, whether it be Forest Green or Salford or
not in the same number. Not in the same number.
I get what you mean in that, but I don't think that's necessarily the case at times. I think there's been different seasons when, depending on when we were in here, you got Luton, Cambridge, I think was in one season, and you've got the money bags around it as well. There's lots of clubs
at the time.
I mean, I guess Wrexham are a bit different. They didn't
have the money. They were a supporters trust funded club. They did not
Wrexham had the money first, and then they became a supporters trust, and then they lost it and went downhill a little bit. But either way, the fact of the matter is, these aren't the teams we've been playing in the last 7 games, Tom. So
I don't. That's not what I'm. I'm not arguing that we haven't been poor in the last 7 games. Clearly, we have. And clearly, one of the main contributing factors to that is something's gone off the field. You don't just go from a team that's won 7 games at home and only lost 1, and then started the season pretty well on the road as well, to all of a sudden just capitulating. Something's gone off the field within the squad. I think we can all agree on that. I think that's clear. What I'm saying is.
So speaking of that,
go on.
Well, Louis Stewart Grant asked the question: do you think the Ryan Sears thing? So anyone who doesn't know, Ryan Sears was caught 3 times over the limit, drink driving down Kingsway at 4:00 in the morning on a day. Do you think Ryan Sears' situation has had an effect on the other players? Do you think that was the point? Do we? I mean, there's only so much we can talk about with that, I guess. But it's got to definitely have had an effect. It was the same with the Scott Brown incident as well. It had an effect then too. I don't know if anybody remembers that time.
Yeah, Nielsen was involved as well, wasn't he, at the time?
Yeah, exactly. And maybe it's that. Maybe it is that. I mean, but I don't. When was that? When did it happen, Bruce? Sorry.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't answering when was that. But no, I don't remember the Scott Brown thing. Funnily enough, whether I've erased it from that period in my memory. But so if it let's guess that it is something to do with that, and there's more fallout from that than we know about. We should be sat here then in some ways having a lot of sympathy with Paul Hurst. You know, this is something that's beyond his managerial control. He can't control what the players do on an evening and what they do in their own time. And something's gone on that, you know, when we were absolutely flying, and, you know, there should be some sympathy there. Now, what that doesn't help, if there are factions in the camp, if there are other people that were involved that we don't know about, is how the bloody hell we get out of it. That's what that doesn't help.
There's only one way to. There's only one solution. That'll fix it.
I think what Bruce was saying there is basically what I've said on previous. There's a reason why these players are playing in the 5th division. It's because, yes, Bruce can't control what they're doing, and people like Sears make stupid decisions, go out boozing, and all of these things. The consequence of that happen to have an effect to what you do on the field. There's no consequence that Ronaldo does a press conference where there's a Coca-Cola bottle and then there's a water bottle and he goes, no, Coca-Cola bad, water good, or whatever he said. Like, this is relatable because Ronaldo he's a model professional. All right, he's probably a boring bastard when you meet him, but he's a model professional, and that's why he's at the top of the level. Scott Nielsen probably could have played at a much higher level than he did for us, but he basically had a vice which was going out.
I just need to say two things on that very, very briefly. There's plenty of players at the top level who have got interesting social lives, shall we say. It's well known that Neymar always has an injury at the time of his sister's birthday, so he can go back home and party, for example. But also, and this is just a personal one, just in case we have got anybody listening that's aware of this, I would like us, as a personal request, not to hold Ronaldo up, bearing in mind his outstanding arrest warrant in America as a model professional and as an example of a great person. And that's not a dig at you, Tom. That's just a general thing, because I think that's a reasonable thing for us to expect of everybody.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. I was more making the point that, you know, the top professionals don't go out boozing. And
Galley did.
Yeah, sorry. And I do agree with you there, Tom, to be fair. Yeah, I want to think at you. It was just a general one.
Galley was a top professional. So Dean Wingate said, we're struggling to find a way to win it away right now. What needs to be addressed is 7 or our next 10 games are at home. I think these next 10 will define the way our season ends. And that's true. And we've got a hell of a run come. Obviously, the next 3 games read like a worst nightmare of football, don't they, for this league? We've got Chesterfield, then Stockport in the trophy. I mean, Tom and Paul Hurst are the only 2 that care about that. And then Boreham Wood. So, you know, we've got 3 teams there that are going to give us an absolute... an absolute thing to worry about. Wayne Draper says that the Ryan Sears thing has definitely had an effect on the team, while Dale Hulston has said that why would it have an effect on the squad? They're professionals. If you're a fullback, you should be now be sitting there thinking, now's my chance to get into the squad. I think at the moment, Dale, that they're not.
And I think there might be more affected than just Ryan Sears as well, between somewhere along the line. I don't know how or why, but I agree with. If that was the case, I agree with Dale. But I think there are people's attitudes, or there are people mentally or emotionally involved in this. I think one way or another, whether it's disagreeing with the way that he's been treated, or whether it's people that are pissed off the other way, or whatever. There's something not quite right.
Right. Well, I mean, we're pretty running out of time, but let's have a quick chat Halifax have given us 1,200 tickets for the Boxing Day game. I got quite annoyed about it, even though I'm not going. Like, that's a bit of a shitter, isn't it? I mean, 1,200 on a Boxing Day game, which is our local game. If that's going to be the case, should local games be the way to go at Christmas if the police aren't able to police them professionally enough and efficiently enough? Or is that too serious a question for this pod?
I guess potentially. I mean, how many would we take even to a London game on Boxing Day? Potentially, I guess we'd still take a fair few.
Well, the problem is though, is you got the tube runs, but the trains outside of London don't. So Southwest trains. So me and Tom would be foobad.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it's an absolute shitter, and to be fair, the info coming from the supporters trust was decent on it as well.
And the club work hard. I mean, I get on with Christine really well, and she says, "Look, we work our arse off talking to him." And the rumours outside of her and other people was like they wanted to give us less. They wanted to give us far less. And if it wasn't for the trust and for the club bathroom for more, we could have ended up with less than 500. Adam Panel says we might not even need 1,200 if this form continues, which is, maybe that's a smart way that our out of the box thinking board are currently going. It saves any issues with ticketing. I don't think we'll be opening the Osmond for a while, maybe. I don't know. But 1,200, Bruce, are you going to be going? That's quite a small amount, isn't it?
I don't do Boxing Day since I got with Claire. It's a sacred family day in her part, so it's a trade-off for the away games that I do the rest of the season. But know that I'll be heading down towards Horncastle, heading down Tom's way, or his way where he's from, for the day.
I'm not from Horncastle.
That way on. Oh, fuck's sake, mate!
It's all the same down there.
All right. I won't be heading anywhere near. Oh God!
That's like 2 minutes up the road in Lincolnshire terms, 20 miles.
I think you need to turn that bloody telly off that you've got on and put Pornhub on or something for a bit. No, I'm heading down to Horncastle for the day. So no, I won't be going. But I judging by the amount of people that have been asking if they can borrow my season ticket to get tickets, I think it might not. Our run might not last long enough to affect it, because I think in a lot of people's eyes, Boxing Day is a big away day. So yeah, I think it's a low number, and I agree with you, Alex, that what's the point in having local games if they reduce it because it's a local game and you're going to take lots of fans? That's nonsensical.
Yeah, I agree. I'm trying to work out what else we decided to discuss. I'm just talking about Max Verstappen in this WhatsApp group at the moment, so I don't know if that helps. Is there anything else we need to really touch on? The women's game today was called off, which is a shame. But they seem to be flying high, looking for a new manager at the moment. Dale is listening, so I don't know if he wants to pass on any information as to as his hopes for it in the upcoming. But we shall see. It'll be interesting to see where they go with next. And also, I think that I don't know what else is there to talk about at the moment. It's all quite rosy.
So I mean, 3 points.
Well, we've got Chesterfield up. That's probably the toughest game of the season so far. Stockport hadn't really found their gear, and Wrexham were quite poor from what I remember when they came up to us. I'm
hoping we bounce. I'm hoping we bounce off the atmosphere a little bit, and there's going to be a good away following. You would think they should bring 1,000 or more. You would hope, given the way that they're going and the distance to us.
They've sold out their initial allocation, I think.
Our home form has been, by and large, very good, and those new fans that have been coming at home see there's a lot more families I seem to have seen recently, which is fantastic. They've only seen generally good results and one smash and grab by Notts County. So yeah, let's hope that there are still big numbers at home, and I think the Boreham Wood game, the Osmond was still open. There were tickets were sold in reasonable numbers still, even though we were already partway through a not great run. So yeah, let's hope somehow we can find a kickstart from somewhere and get this season back on track.
I think we will. And I think Tom is right in aspects that we have come a long way. There is a lot of stuff off the field that we can be positive with. And I think with Paul Hurst, we might not see results necessarily this season, but we will see them in seasons to come. It does take a while to build a team, to pick the right candidates that you've got and who does well, who doesn't. You'll have unsuspecting things that come out of out of thin air, like, your left back's been arrested for drink driving. You're going to have loads of bits and bobs that will sort of come to you. And it took him a while to build his squad last time, but it does take that time. But one of the things it does do is it gives you that opportunity. You know full well that when you get promoted out of this league, League Two is so shit that you are already a top half team in League Two when you get out of this league. And one of the reasons why I don't mind 2 up, 2 down is it gives you that position where you get out of this league, you're in a good position financially. Tom might be able to tell me, when was the last time a team went up from the National League and got relegated the very next season? I don't know if that's happened in my memory of us actually having to pay attention to the shitty leagues.
Yeah, it might have been Halifax Town, actually.
But I think, I guess if we're struggling, it says something, doesn't it? It does give you that monitor. And you're right in terms of there's a lot more money being thrown around this league at the moment. And we do have to set our expectations. We're not going to... Would anyone seriously want us to have gone out but even now when he's scored like 90,000 goals, would you really have wanted us to take a gamble on Tishmanga for £250,000? Really? Given that Bogle cost £50,000, I would
certainly not in the circumstances that they've done it in, with furlough and everybody to be able to do it.
Yeah, it's just not worth the risk. There's just as much chance that next week he's going to come on and, McAtee will come in and run in and smash him, or, Dave Challoner will break his leg when they play Stockport. You've got quite a few bits where, that's a 1 in a million shout that's going to be successful at that money. It's just not worth it. And we all know full well in the next 5 years, when is Chesterfield going to be begging for money again? Because that's what they do, shit and bust.
A couple of weeks ago, wasn't it? They were begging for money again.
Oh, what, for a pitch cover? Yeah,
It's
their MO is just shit and bust, and you never know. It might work, it might not, but it tends to not work. So there is stuff to go from. But my God, we have been shit. I really miss Alan Powan.
Can I just throw a positive in, Alex?
What?
The Mariners Trust are having their
yes, please do say nice things.
Their annual kids' Christmas party in a couple of weeks. If your children are not members, get them signed up and have a look at their channels, because it's a fantastic day. They get players along, or fantastic evening, shall I say. They get players along, and for £5 a year to be a junior member of the trust is a no-brainer. The perks and the benefits and the birthday cards and the joining packs, I just get them joined up, would be my message. Thank you.
Yeah, it's well worth getting involved in. There's going to be quite a bit. I mean, we're talking about it. I mean, we probably won't announce it soon, but we're looking at hopefully doing stuff for fans who want to, get a bit of fitness and get a bit of health into themselves, because being a bloke can be quite a lonely job at times, unless you've got a loving wife or a like, you can sometimes struggle to get out, get a bit of fitness and getting around. And hopefully we as a podcast can help be a conduit to offer you something. So there'll be more news on that in the future. But while I'm dying, I don't have COVID, but it feels like it. I'll tell you something, going into the office with this cough has been brilliant. You don't get any dodgy looks whatsoever. Is there anything else? We've been going at it for over an hour. I think we've cleared the air. I feel a little bit better that I've been, but oh my God. When was the last time we just, got the ball and fucking ran at someone? When was the last time? Pardon?
Dover.
That don't count. Dover were running away. But yeah, like we never seem to just have one of those games where you go, oh God, that was fucking brilliant. Ian, what were you going to say?
It's not strictly speaking about Town, but it's an early warning for anybody. The Internet Mariners have got a game on the Bank Holiday Monday on 3rd January against Halifax, who are a really good side. They've won the league on quite a few occasions. We're hopefully going to have some recognisable faces down as well. We are going to be playing at Taylor's House. It's not me. I will be there, and I will be the fat lad stood on the side and coming on for about 5 minutes, because my knees are worse than Alan Poughton's are now. But we'll be playing 10:45 kickoff at Taylor's Ave, and basically we'd love to see as many people as possible there. Nicely placed as well for you to get into Cleethorpes for a beer afterwards before going on to the proper stuff.
Or during. It's well worth doing, and that's hopefully something we can help with as well, because it's just the Internet Mariners used to be quite a popular thing, but it's probably safe to say that it used to have a set group of people that used to go, and they've all been sent to the glue factory, essentially. Is that right, Ian?
There's a combination of things. People have moved out of town. People have aged. We've got a decent squad out for this game. To be fair, we have got a few people starting to come on board again, and hopefully, when I can get a few bits and bobs sorted, I'll be getting us a new kit, working with the trust on that as well. So there's a few bits and bobs happening. But yeah, if anybody can come down and just give us a bit of support, you can even do some bigling out chants before hopefully getting the Hearst out of your system for the afternoon. And trust me, I will happily stand aside. And yeah, just basically just come down and support the lads. As I say, there should be hopefully some recognisable faces there from town past as well on the day.
Perfect. Great stuff. Anybody else want anything to plug? I've got nothing to plug. We've got a Christmas members reception if you want to come along. Actually, no, it's fully booked. You can't come to it. But if you live in the London area and you can make sandwiches, it would be really appreciated if you got in touch, because our usual person that does it for 450 quid is now wanting cash in hand. So I assume their business is not going very well. So we've got to find somebody else to do it. And guess what? Buying sandwiches in London for 100 and odd people is fucking expensive. So they're about 2 days away from just getting a Boots meal deal each. But we are where we are. We've got Chesterfield next. The flag will be back. When will the flag be back? Let me have a quick look. When are we this way again? We've got a bit of a break now, Tom. Southend, 18th of February is the next game near us.
No, I'm going to the Christmas games anyway.
Shut up, you. 18th, and then we've got Southend, Dover. I'm not fucking going to Dover. Fuck off. Boreham Wood, Weymouth. I've got a Weymouth. Barnet, yeah, and Eastleigh.
I think Dover's probably closer for us.
I assume the house lot will go just to up the numbers. But I mean, hopefully things will be a hell of a lot rosier coming up soon. But I don't really have anything uplifting to say. Max and Lewis go into the final race on equal points. That's going to be good. Who wants to talk? Shall we just stay on and talk about the Grand Prix a minute ago? Because that was amazing. Nobody else, just me. Nobody here watch F1.
It was crazy. It was crazy.
I don't like Max.
No, my dad doesn't like Max. My dad's put on the family. My dad's put on the family WhatsApp. Verstappen is an idiot.
Pound Shop Senna.
Brundle said Max needs to look at his driving standards. Get him some L plates.
I'll tell you something. He won't fucking pass his test driving like that. Anyway, where are we? We are. Thank you all so much for listening, ranting. I hope it helps. But do come to us if you've got stuff to talk about and you want to join in. Please do, because people must be getting bored of hearing our opinions. So feel free to come in, say what you want, and then piss off, and we'll deal with repercussions as long as it's it's not too rude. And we'll be glad to have you on board. So with that, go and have a bit of a rest. Take a bit of time out from town. What I'll do is I'll tweet the town thing tomorrow, and then after that I won't tweet anything tomorrow. I'm gonna have 24 hours off, and I'm gonna calm down a bit. So the Twitter account is stopping after I put out the tweet that says it's live.
You are an absolute liar.
No, I've got 5-a-side tomorrow. We who have I got? Oh, we got the yellow team. So I told you I play in the Fat League, don't I?
The yellow team.
Yeah, we're called Borussia Mönchengladbach Fat. Is the team name. I don't know who else we play. What were the other names? Dynamo Kebabs, Rapid Viennetta. It's cracking. But we're all on for that. We're playing the Whites, so they're pretty nasty. I got shouted at last time because I keep elbowing them in the face. But there we go. I don't know how to end this podcast. Thank you all very much. Wayne says all the best. Wayne, thank
Cheers,
you.
lads.
Tom, thank you for coming on and being the conduit for all our the positivity, being the gatekeeper of it. He's silent now. Bruce, thank you for coming on and humiliating yourself in that terrible outfit. And Ian, thank you for doing exactly the same, because any man who sat with a laptop on their knee, you know, with a football shirt on in the house can only smell beautiful. He's not saying anything.
That is a fairly harsh assumption there to finish off on that note. I appreciate that, Alex, and thank you very much.
Tom has gone. Okay, fine. So I'm going to do. What do you want? Do you want over the top theme to say goodbye, or the nice, or the usual theme? Or
We're going to go over the top if you're offering it out.
Or do you want the Bogle one again?
Absolutely.
I was going to suggest we open the pod with the Slade rant over Notts County over Pinot. I blame the Frenchman. He was a disgrace, right. John.
I'm going to do the new theme one because I want to go and listen to see what Damien Hill said about Max. But thank you all for listening.
Cheers, guys.
See you later.
Open wide for some soccer!